Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. Thank you so very, very much for being here. This is for Friday, May 19th. So, a couple of big things kind of going on this week. Um, y- and both sort of legal, okay? And that's what I'm going to look at today. I want to look at Rudy Giuliani. As we all know, there was that huge lawsuit filed for, accusing him of, sexual abuse, um, you know, him and Donald selling pardons for $2 million a piece. I want to see how that's going to unfold. And then the other thing I'm going to look at is, as you've heard, um, Jack Smith is going to be getting some more documentation from, I believe, um, it's the National Archives, and it very clearly apparently shows that there was a procedure in place, and the Trump administration knew what that procedure was. They just sort of chose to ignore it. And this, I think, has to do with the documents that ended up getting stored at Mar-a-Lago. So I want to take a look at that, but I kind of want to look at it from Jack's perspective as opposed to Donald. One of the things that these two men, not Jack, but the other two, have in common is that they're shameless. They're just absolutely shameless. You it just doesn't penetrate, whether they're living in some sort of inner fantasy world where they still believe that they're all powerful, or whether they've just gone so far down that they are in a place where they're beyond shame. The other thing these two have in common is that they won't both want to be relevant, and to some degree they don't really care um what's being said about them as long as something's being said about them. And that again is not when you have that sort of mentality, it's very difficult to rein those kind of people in because nothing will make them stop short of really, really significant legal issues. And even then, as we learned from the Eugene Carroll case, that even with a $5 million penalty, he just is incapable of shutting up. He is going to repeat the same things all over again. Um, you know, that's what you're dealing with here. So let's take a look at Rudy first and see what we can see. All right. So, and I have a question. Okay, here we go. Rudy, recent lawsuit, Rudy, recent lawsuit, Rudy, recent lawsuit. There we go. Queen of Wands. Here, this is another one where you kind of have to wonder. Um, Sorry, it's so long since I've done this, and I'm having trouble sort of figuring out where to put the card. There we go. Um, it's women. It's always women. That's what's going to get them, and it's not going to bode well. Okay, so interestingly, these first four cards actually pertain to the litigant as opposed to the defendant. So here you have, I don't remember her name. I'm sorry, guys. Um, you have the woman who has brought this lawsuit, okay? And her words, her communications are heard, and they're powerful not only just because of the words and the implications and this, and but they're also powerful because women who are a huge part of the voting population, pay attention to this kind of stuff. Okay. And so that is, it's in her favor, basically. The Three of Swords is representing three different components of the lawsuit that are going to give him trouble. So I think you have the sexual assault and coercion. You have the $2 million pardons, and you have the recordings where there have been, because there were recordings and this woman was privy to them, in fact was very often right there's a problem with sort of client lawyer client confidentiality, right? That's been breached. So that's they're sort of like, I see it as three separate areas that are all going to come together and frankly just create no end of trouble for him. As of right now, this indicates that she is going to um, be victorious. She is going to, it's going to be sort of like another E. Jean Carroll, where in many, many ways she represents all women. Um, and beyond that, she represents all people who care, because of, particularly because of the sorry, the pardons, the $2 million pardon deal. And what this is going to do is it's going to continue to expose more information about money and dirty dealings. And that pertains to, again, all three areas of this lawsuit. So that's it from her perspective. Let's see what else there is. Okay. So there, is the former guy, our greedy King of Pentacles. And is it surprising that the devil and the greedy guy are side by side? No, it's actually really not, because that was part and parcel of who Rudy was doing this stuff for. It was because they are greedy, 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 and they were going to get whatever they can get. Both of them suffer from this sort of I'm a powerful man, I can get away with whatever I want nonsense. I mean, both of them need to give their heads a shake, okay? Because honestly, um, they're past sort of their prime, to paraphrase Don Lemon. But they may they use the power and they wield it because in their own right, they're no they're frankly they're not attractive. In their own right, nobody would want to be with them unless they were either coerced or they were the kind of person who just simply got off on powerful men. Okay, so that's the situation there. Rudy's going to try to blame some of this on Trump because really those guys aren't the bestest of friends anymore, because Trump, of course, won't hand over the money to pay for Rudy's legal expenses, and he's trying to convince everybody that he's broke. Herman and the Page of Swords. Okay. There's more that's going to come out. Okay. A lot of what was alleged in that lawsuit is it literally says this conversation was recorded. Okay. Well, so there's not really very far to go once this conversation is recorded. Talk about your smoking gun. But there are some things where it was not recorded. But that doesn't mean that there isn't corroborating evidence, okay? That there isn't the way to make their case. Yeah, you know what? This is as of right now, energetically, this is the bottom line. He's in a whole heap of trouble for disregarding the law, from turning away from the law. Um, and energetically, it for him, it feels like his world has become more chaotic and is sort of tumbling down all over the place. For her, this is going to be a victory. This is going to have significant impact like the E. Jean Carroll case did. But there's still more to come out. And ultimately, it's going to be a win for women and a disaster for him. Could not happen to more deserving people. Alrighty, let's take a look at the other one. So, more documents coming to Jack Smith from the National Archives, apparently spelling out quite clearly the rules about taking documents and declassifying documents, which is a joke. I can think it in basically, I can just think it and it's declassified. And literally that tells you the complete disregard the former guy has for any kinds of rules, any kinds of constraint. Oh, look at the bottom. Um, any kind of constraint, right? He doesn't believe he he should be constrained. He doesn't think that that's necessary because he's who he is. And he was an egomaniac to start with. And when you add the presidency to that, you have somebody who truly, truly believes he's above law. And not only that, but his tendencies are so autocratic, right? He wants to control everything and everybody. And he wants everything and everybody jumping, when he screams Coke and everybody is supposed to jump how high and how many. So, you know what? It's going to, um, Jack is continuing to build a really, really strong case because there's so much evidence out there. So much evidence between him and his perfect phone calls. And, I can declassify anything and I'm entitled to have that stuff. You know, so let's take a look and see what's going on between the two. So, dynamic between Jack Smith, Trump. Dynamic between Jack Smith, Trump. Dynamic between Jack Smith and Trump. He's got the goods. He's building an ironclad case. The lawyers that Trump hires are they're so far away from Jack Smith's league. It's like they're not even in the same time zone. Okay. And again, you have sort of Lady Justice here, right? That's what he's about. Jack Smith doesn't care if you're Republican, um, Democratic, or Independent. He doesn't care what you personally believe or what you think. All he knows is there are laws, and when you break them, these are the ramifications. And he is building an airtight case. And you know what? Yeah, it's crazy frustrating to always being told you just have to wait a little longer. You just have to wait a little longer. But as I said before, the last thing you want is a situation where you rush and then it doesn't come together and you don't kind of win on all counts. The reality is this: if it is proven that who sold the information on those documents, that can literally bar him from running again. And it is not so much that is or isn't Jack's personal preference. It is simply, again that that is what the law says. That's what the Constitution says. Those are the laws. End of discussion. Now, Jack Smith is going for the win here. He is very, very aware of the damage that will continue to be caused um, to society, okay, to the communities. If the former guy is allowed to continue down the path he's on, okay? And as for Trump, as for Trump, he's frustrated. He's angry. He doesn't like all these carrots being dangled. He doesn't like how long this is taking. He wants to either delay it until after the next election, or he wants to just sweep it under the rug. He doesn't like this sort of stalemate position he's in. And that is causing him to become more and more extreme in his behavior. He is wanting to really ramp up his support because he's trying to get to that place of being king of the world, right? He wants to be president again because he has a whole alphabetized list of people that he's out to get. He there is that is his motivation, and because that's his motivation, he continues to rely on getting people angry and frightened and scared. He continues to sort of devolve farther and farther towards the right wing on the conspiracy theories, because this is sort of the thing, right? You give somebody some red meat, okay, and they gobble it all up. Well, the next time you give them some red meat, it has to be a bigger piece than the previous one. And then the next one has to be bigger than that and bigger than that. And right now, the red meat appears to be coming from, I don't know, maybe like a 1,500-pound cow. Okay. It's just, but that's his stock and trade. That's what he knows, because he doesn't have any emotional control. He's got no impulses or no, yeah, he gives in to his impulse, no control over his impulses. He is very well able to get people in that same state of mind. And so whatever he spews is in perfect alignment with his desire to become king of the world. And the way he's doing that is exactly what he did before, which is trying to get everybody stirred up. This is the thing. If you get so angry and afraid, in some ways, you stop hearing. Okay, so they're not hearing the craziness of what he's saying. They're only reacting from an emotional level. So the more insane that things that he says, and everybody else is going, "Oh my God, how can you be saying this? Like, don't people understand?" Like, no, because they're not actually listening to the words anymore. They're just feeding on the emotion. And remember what I have said 100 times before: emotions are the most powerful manifester. And energy doesn't care if it's positive or negative. It goes where the push is. And because of that, it, the mega crowd um, sort of becomes stronger and stronger as they are diminished. Okay. So what that means is they're not listening anymore. Now they're just all pure emotion. So in his world, Trump's world, make no mistake, there's fear. There's genuine worry. There's anxiety, because to some level or a not, he understands that getting the presidency is the only thing that's going to keep him out of trouble. And there is a lot of conflict going on within his inner circle about sort of some of the directions that he is heading down. I mean, that literally rally over the weekend that was nothing more than a white supremacist bonding moment. Um, you know, you can't constrain him, and so it is creating a tension and frustration. But Jack has the goods. Jack has the goods, and he's getting really smart at sort of playing with Trump's emotions. He's getting really good at being able to put out just enough, so that it sends Trump into more and more of an emotional frenzy. Because of that, he makes big, huge mistakes. Okay, you're going to survive this. Jack Smith's going to survive this. Um, and the love affair between Trump and his minions, um, they're going to continue to be tightly entwined and bound with each other, but that group of people diminishes. It grows smaller and smaller and smaller. And it comes right down to it. Jack Smith is going to be very pleased to serve this particular cup of legislation, or sorry, of litigation to Trump. And Trump is just going to stare at the loss, all the losses. Knight of Wands, King of Cups, Nine of Wands. So there's going to be continuing to be some more information that is kind of dribbled out. Um, it makes us crazy, right? Because we're like, for God's sakes, when is enough already? When do you have enough that you can just get this thing moving? But remember, part of the strategy is manipulating the emotions so that the more rattled Trump becomes, the more mistakes he makes, the more stupid stuff he says. And again, he just doesn't get that when you say things in public and you're trying to get that laugh out of your rally goers or your town hall that wasn't a town hall audience. He gets so wrapped up in the adulation that he forgets that this stuff is recorded, and he forgets that Jack Smith is watching. The reality is Trump has built himself a nice little cage, and he is the one that's ultimately going to end up slamming the door on himself. His really foolish decisions, the way he handles things, the way he is so attracted to pretty lawyers, that again, they're so out of they're so far away from Jack Smith's league, it's skill set, talent, um, that they're going to be sort of obliterated. And there you have the ending, death. So when this all comes together, and I don't think it's going to be that long, um, it's going to have um, a profound and permanent effect on not only the former guy, but for a lot of people, because understand, it's not just Trump. It is the GOP. It is people who helped him, whether they were federal or state. There is a lot of people wrapped up in this investigation. So not only are there a lot of witnesses and a lot of information, but there's more than one person that ultimately ends up getting looked at. And so that's going to create a sense of an ending for a lot of people in terms of what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, you know? And people who've been doing unacceptable things have found out that, yeah, you know what? It may take time, but ultimately, there is a reckoning. All right. I just have a couple of quick pendulum questions that I just want to ask really, really fast here. Okay. So the pendulum's going side to side. It's ready to talk. Here we go. Is Donald Trump going to end up being found guilty? Let's just start with that. From the Jack Smith's um, litigation and charges. Okay. Yes. Is as time has gone by, is the potential for Trump to end up jailed, is that energy growing? That's a surprise. So let's start with jailed by a ankle bracelet. Is that going to be some of it or a part of it or all of it? Okay. Is there also going to be actual incarceration at a facility? All right, so that's now a small yes. That's and it hasn't been yes, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And just because there's more crap going on, is Joe Biden likely already to look at expanding the number of justices on the Supreme Court to create balance again? Wow, that's a strong yes. Okay, and don't forget, let's just double check. As of right now, is it still looking like before the end of Biden's first term, is the Supreme Court going to lose two Republican leaning judges? And that's a yes. And on that note, let's all go off and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you very, very much for being here. I loved all the questions you sent. I'm going to start working my way through them. So some of the videos pertaining to that should be dropping next week. Be good to yourself this weekend and somebody else. And until next time, take care, be well. Bye bye.